Welcome to the Believe in Texans podcast presented by FanDuel. We are joined today by Marc Ross, who spent a couple of decades working in personnel. He's been with the NFL Network for 6 years. He and I have a little bit of a shared history from the playing field, and we'll get to that later. Marc, I was pleased to see that you had a list that you published earlier this year of guaranteed comeback players, and one of those guys was CJ Stroud.
Yes. Well, I believe in CJ. So, first of all, of course, the rookie year, how he just crushed it, and then the expectations for year two were so high, almost unrealistic. The timetable got accelerated so fast with D'Amico and CJ. And then, despite it seeming like a down year, still won a division, still won a playoff game. He still did a lot of good things. But I think the expectations might have been AFC Championship game or something like that. So, with the whole new set, we'll see we'll probably get into all these new pieces that are there as well. I mean, he and Nico really are the only mainstays, and everything else is really changing along the offensive front, and even with the receivers, running back, who knows if he'll be back and everything. Joe will be back with the injury. So a lot of moving parts around CJ, but I fully expect him to have a bounce back season.
Let me ask you this, Mark, because CJ was voted last year from his peers number 39, I think, last night in the top 100. So from a player standpoint, he was top 40 player in the league, which is really good. And I agree with you from our standpoint, it was like, okay, rookie year was exceptional. Was our expectations way too high for him in year two? Because if he's voted top 40, and then you look at the film, yes, it wasn't the best year, but it wasn't a bad year, right?
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. But again, it was whenever you set the bar high, after that, if you fall short of that, then it's a disappointment. When I started out with the Eagles, we'll go back Seth right after Seth started, and we make you win your division. Okay, well now you got to keep winning your division. If not, it's a disappointment. Well, you win a playoff game. Well, okay, the next year you better win again. You make an NFC Championship game. All right, do it again. Well, you lose. Now you lose again. Then you finally, until you get beyond that hump, then it's a disappointment. With the Giants, you win one Super Bowl. After that, we don't want to hear about playoffs or winning. We don't want to hear about that. You better go win it again. Okay, now we win it again 3-4 years later, and we don't care about anything else. Go win it again. So when you have success and you set the bar high, then you just keep having to achieve that, or there's that natural disappointment that happens.
Marc, you were out at Texans training camp on, I believe, July 29th, and honestly, that feels like 7 months ago, because the Texans offense, as they're trying to install this new offense against those psycho maniacs on defense, it's looked better. It's looked a lot better in the last week. But what did you see at the time?
That was not the day for me to see the offense and try to see. I would have not had CJ Stroud on my bounce back list.
You're trying to delete that, yeah.
I mean, they could not complete a pass that day. It was just discouraging, to say the least. But that's why you don't just judge something off one practice or one day. And then we had I actually interviewed Will and Daniil, at the end of practice, and they said, the offense has gotten the better of us some days as well. This just happened to be our day. And it's a work in progress with so many new pieces. And even then, the offensive line, I think, probably has changed since then, and who's been in there and who gets reps at receiver. So, of course, it's going to be a work in progress up until opening day. And that's really all that matters.
Who stood out to you on training? Sorry, Seth. Who stood out to you in training camp when you were there? Because the defense, I mean, it's so many guys out there. Like Seth calls it all the time, they look psychotic because there's so many guys that are going to the ball, they're celebrating, they're excited. But who stood out to you that day on defense?
Well, Bullock, he had a fantastic day, and I always loved him at SC just because of the range and the ball skills. Like, that's a rare trait to have as a safety. I mean, the guy's got the length, he's got the speed, just covered everything up back there. Because of course, Will and Daniil are always going to impress with what they do. And, if they control the game and without having the blitz and do all kinds of exotic things, like, you two just go get it and create havoc for the rest of the group, that then you can start mixing and matching and doing all kinds of stuff on the back end to confuse the quarterback. So, they're always going to impress. But, actually that day, Bullock was the one that said, wow, he's really got something.
The fans who got frustrated this offseason because it didn't feel like they really put as much effort or as many resources into rebuilding the offensive line. They tore it down, but then we were expecting them to build it back up more aggressively. And it still feels a little bit like they're living in a FEMA trailer when it comes to how's the rebuild going on paper. And For one, I totally and 100% believe that, look, a new offensive coordinator and a new offensive line coach can make a big difference. And sometimes teams that offensive lines that don't look that great on paper, like the Ravens last year, as long as they play as a cohesive unit, can be a credible offensive line. But I guess, how realistic is that? Am I just kind of deluding myself?
No, I talk about that all the time with the offensive line. You don't need 5 Pro Bowlers up there. You just need some solid dudes that play well together. And when they play together, they're better as a unit than they are individually. Pretty much, I think the offensive line group is the most distinctive group of, hey, if we play together, we'll play well. And so I think with them, yes, a lot of changes and sometimes addition by subtraction. Laramie Tunsil, you hear some things like maybe it was better not having him around, the influence that he may have had. And so now, of course, they've brought a bunch of vets in and Lincoln and Cam, and they've thrown a lot of resources at bringing in those vets. But and then drafting the big guy, Essery, I think he's going to be fantastic. I mean, I loved him at Minnesota. You just see the gigantic guy out there with these long arms and just plays tough, and I think he's going to be a really good player. So as long as you have 2 building blocks there, and then the other 3 guys are serviceable and work well together, the line will be better.
Let me ask you, and I agree with you. I love Ursery. He moved some guys this past weekend. We'll talk about that, Seth, but he did some good things against the Vikings on Saturday. The running back room, when Joe went down, or when stuff started coming out about Joe not being able to practice, people were like, well, in the offseason, we didn't address the running back room. What's it going to look like? What's your thoughts on that room? Nick Chubb, Damian Pierce, Woody Marks, and et cetera.
Yeah, and again, you're counting on Joe being back, and injuries, look, they're always going to happen. It's not if, but just when and how bad. So, I think bringing in Nick Chubb late, if you had Mixon and Pierce, you're like, okay, this is a good group here. And in the draft, I guess, you're thinking of drafting someone as well. There's always avenues for that. With Chubb, you're taking a huge swing. Again, the day I was there, it didn't look like the Nick Chubb I knew. It looked like he just might not have it. A lot of injuries with Nick, and I absolutely love him. And, they're still not done. There's still time. There's still time to add to the room. And at this time of year, where scouts that are check personnel departments are looking at the other teams and seeing who might get cut. And then you're hoping for the best for your own guys, that they'll ascend. But, again, as long as if CJ raises the level, here's back to CJ again with the offensive line I meant to touch on. If he raises everyone's level, everyone will be better. And as long as he's the focal point, then you don't have to have the super Joe Mixon. You can just have those 2 or 3 guys in there doing different things and making the offense go.
Yeah, no, Mark, the last week of training camp before this preseason game, they were in West Virginia, and their last couple of padded practices, the offensive line finally really looked like they started playing a physical brand of football. And it was amazing. Lo and behold, the play action opened up. And Nick Chubb, when he had good blocking in front of him, you can still see the vision, and he still has that strength. I don't know if he has that burst, and who knows how much more he'll get back to that. But that part of it was exciting to see. You could start to maybe see where that's going to come into place. You were also at the Jaguars camp, and I'm curious about Travis Hunter and what you saw of him out at practice. I don't know if it was an offensive day or a defensive day for him.
He did both. So it was only the second day, the day I was there, that they had him doing both. And I'd never seen that. Usually you see a guy with when they do special teams periods where they put those pennies on and you go do the special teams. Well, he had a penny, especially for himself, where one drill he's doing the offense, next drill he's on they had a goal line drill. He was on defense. He went to the sideline 2 plays later. He put the penny on and went back on offense. So I had never seen that before. So to hear about it is one thing. When I was actually watching, wow, this is pretty special. Now, that being said, I just don't think he'll be able to hold up full time doing both. It'll be a spot play. And, his first game, you don't want to judge someone off this first preseason game, but there was a lot of flaws there. And again, that's just preseason. So, imagine going against someone we're going to run right at him. When he's in the game, we're going to run at him. And, you receiver, go get after him. Let's get this tackle pulling out after him. So I just think it's going to be tough for him to do that full time. Spot play on both sides, yes. Full time, no. But he is a fantastic athlete. It's just how effective can he be? How much time on both sides of the ball before it takes away from him doing something really well?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch. What about Shedeur Sanders? Like, how did you think of his debut? I'm so curious about that. I'm from Cleveland, so I got to sneak that question in
Oh
there a
boy,
little bit.
yeah.
But
So
what's your thoughts on him?
yeah, I was at Cleveland camp as well, and the day I was there, he was hurt the day before, so he didn't practice the day before. Then I get there, and they're all practicing, but then Gabriel gets hurt the day I was there. Kenny Pickett was hurt, so he was just halfway playing. So they were just mixing and matching guys to get hurt, and lo and behold, well, now Shedeur's starting. I mean, he's fourth. He's not even practicing, and then 4 days later, he's starting in the game. So it's really a wild ride going on in that Cleveland quarterback room. Like, who's the last man standing to be there? And there was a lot of talk like they're setting them up to fail. Like, no, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. That's all you want as a rookie, no matter where you draft. It's like, I'm going to go start a game. Yeah, of course, you have to take advantage of that. And he played well. So you have to give that to him. Did he play well enough to now they're this week at practice to say, okay, now you're our starter, you'll get more reps? And that remains to be seen. Kevin Stefanski's the only one that knows that. And they're actually practicing against the Eagles. I live in Philly. They're down here this week against the Eagles. And that might be a little bit of a different story going up against that defense in practice if Shedeur jumps out there than a preseason game, what we saw the other day. So, again, a lot of time, a lot remains, a lot of practice time to see whether he can take control of the job.
And Mark, we ran out of time. I got to let you go, but Cecil, you need to know that Marc Ross was a stud receiver at Princeton. When I was a freshman and a sophomore, he was one of the highlighted guys up the week before and he was on an offense where Keith Elias was getting like 45 carries per. Mark was a stud. So you know.
Thanks. I still got 6 school records, 2-time All-Eye, return specialist. I like Google me, man. Google me. See, you're not the only legit receiver here, man. Come on.
And follow Mark on Twitter or X, at Marc Ross. I appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah, anytime.
Let's see. So Cecil, let me switch our little display up here real quick. Mark's awesome. That was I was a young kid. I didn't know. Where are we? There we go. Yeah, I was just a young nobody, and Marc Ross was a stud on a very, very run heavy offense, which I feel like this Texans offense is going to be run heavy, and it just judging on what we saw. Is it too early to make any judgments about Nick Caley and how he's going to operate based on just that one preseason game and a smattering of starters playing?
No, I don't. I love the personnel grouping, I think. I agree with you. I think they're going to try to run the ball heavy.
Yeah.
When you come out in 12 personnel, when you come out with 2 tight end sets, when you come out with just how they approach the game, I do think they're going to run the football. Now, the question is, will you get something out the running game? Now, I think the offensive line looked good, but are you going to get that from Dameon Pierce back there? Are you going to get that from Joe Mixon if he's healthy? Nick Chubb? Like, who's going to be the guy is my question when it comes to the running game.
There's one element that I'm really intrigued by, and it all revolves around personnel. And when you our listeners and our viewers have questions about personnel, who do you go to? You go to ZipRecruiter. Finding candidates to hire can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You get too many resumes, not enough candidates. Just like football players on a football team, there's not enough the people that are the right people. With ZipRecruiter, you can find amazing candidates fast, and right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter's smart technology identifies top talent for your roles quickly, immediately after you post your job. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology starts showing you the qualified people for it. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. That needle in the haystack, whether it's a football player or an accountant, go to ZipRecruiter. They don't want me telling you that a football player, they don't do football scouting, but the accountant, heck yeah. 4 out of 5 employees who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. It's ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And Cecil, Ursary 100%. I think Ursary did some really good things. And I had talked to Danielle Hunter last week, And the most encouraging thing that Daniil said was he's a technician. He's a technique guy. And a lot of times with the guys that are huge, hulking brutes in college, it's the opposite. They've gotten used to being able to bully people. But his good reps versus Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, because he's had his bad reps. He's had his his bad reps. But his good reps, you can tell he cares about his technique and he uses those long arms. And we saw that in the game. It was only 10 snaps, but I think they like him a lot.
Cause I knew he was good in the passing protection.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious, a guy his size, can he move people in the running game? Is he going to be willing to move people in the running game? Just to be honest, I think Laramie Tunsil took times where he wanted to and times he didn't want to. I think he was inconsistent in the run game, if you ask me. And just watching his first preseason game with Ursary, he wanted to. Like, he was moving guys. He was physical. I do think he needs to be a tad bit lower, but that's easy for me to say when I'm 5'11" and he's 6 whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's easy for me to say. But I think he did a good job moving. There's some steps I think he needs to take when, like, maybe his right foot should be leading first on some movements, but he did an excellent job, man. For the first time out in the NFL game, I was impressed.
That's what sometimes when you're watching those taller guys, you want to see what do they do when their pad level isn't low. And one thing that was really encouraging is he has a really good idea how to use his hips, and then it's just a big wall in front of you, and he knows how to use his hips to seal guys off. And the footwork can definitely be cleaned up. But one of the drawbacks or one of the negatives on him, I remember from his scouting report and seeing some of it on film, was that he sometimes had a hard time with guys slanting to the inside. And so if he's lined up with the defensive end to his left and he slants across his face, can he redirect? And he had a couple nice instances of it. And I think that the offensive line across the board, and I think part of this is just because they're leaning into gap scheme stuff, double teams and duos and everything, as opposed to the outside zone run, that it's easier to sort out the movement on the defensive line. And across the board, I thought they did a much better job not allowing the penetration.
I love what I've seen from Andrews, the center.
Yeah.
I thought he was very active. I thought he communicated well. I thought he went from, like, how guys, they'll reach their first initial block and then they'll move to the second level. I thought he did a good job of making sure whoever he was double teaming with, that the other guy had a good grasp before he went up to the next level. Like, I think that's good communication. That's just good teamwork there. But Andrews and Ursary really stood out to me in the offensive line. What's your thoughts on Fisher when he got his reps?
I don't.
Because he started at right tackle, right? If I'm not
mistaken, he did. And it's telling because Ursary's a rookie. He played 10 snaps on that first drive and then he was out. And Fisher they kept in through the third quarter, I think. And I don't know, man. Because I like Fisher. I think everything about him in terms of his work ethic and all that, there were just positive reports. And it almost looks like he's taken a step back, or at least he hasn't progressed at all. Last year, it was easier to say, well, okay, he's a rookie. He's known to be a project. You hope that it might be a 2-year deal with him. And I just don't know. It's been like this for him in training camp. And, he's had some false starts in training camp. Then he has a false start the other day. And it's weird to say that a second stringer might be fighting for a roster spot, or a second rounder might be fighting for a roster spot. But I just don't know. At this point, certainly if Cam Robinson's healthy, I don't think they'd probably keep Blake Fisher active on game day. But there's still a few weeks of camp left, but we'll see. The one big play that people had questions about, and I was really eager to talk to you about this, was on that first drive, Davis Mills, it looked like he overthrew Cade Stover. But when I'm watching it, this is my defensive line take on it. It looked like Cade Stover was in a spot where he thought he was going to kind of settle into a hole in the zone where he really just should have kept extending his route and been pretty much where Davis ended up throwing the ball.
Yeah, so I actually love that play because 12 personnel. Again, you're seeing what Kaylee wants to do, I think. A lot of 12 personnel on this drive. We have Brevin Jordan.
One running back, 2 tight ends, everybody.
Yep.
A real quick lesson for people, because I know they get hung up on that. Whenever you're telling somebody talk about 12 personnel or 11 personnel, it's the numbers are the running back and then the tight ends. And you're allowed 5 eligible receivers. So if you've got 12 personnel, it's 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and then the 3 leftover guys are wide receivers.
Yep. So you go from Stover and Brevin Jordan on your left side. And what Brevin Jordan had was a simple out and up, and his landmark was probably in between about 5 yards from the sideline. The landmark that Stover had, I don't think he was on his correct landmark.
Okay.
So where Davis threw the ball, he threw it more outside. So Stover ended up like on the inside part of the numbers. He should have been either on the numbers or maybe even at the bottom part of the number, and that way he could have ran and jumped and caught the ball. That he threw it where he wanted to be, away from the safety, right? Because you were right. He looked like he almost wanted to settle down or even thought about going inside. Like, no, keep getting away from the safety, and then Davis would have put it and it would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, that's okay. Good. That's it. It makes me. I'm not nervous about Cade Stover because he's still very raw at the position. He's still very young, and that'll come with time. You hope that over the course of the next 3 weeks, that's the stuff that gets ironed out because Cecil, it was really cool to watch in the scrimmage situation on Thursday that, all right, when the offense isn't just installing, and you know it isn't training camp, you're focused those first few weeks on doing what you do and getting it down. You're not necessarily game planning against your own team in practice. It looked like on Thursday that they game planned a little bit, or at least that Caley was calling it more the way he might want to call it instead of just working on what they're working on. And they sprung a few wide open receivers and tight ends in the practice, and that's what it looked like in the game.
Well, that's for preseason games. I've been a part of a lot of scripts for your first group of guys.
Yeah.
Right after that, you kind of freestyle and you're trying to see what guys can do. Coach may say, "Hey, I want to see a good run game here. Let's see what Woody Marks can do, right? Or let's see what Hutchinson can do this play or this drive." But that first drive is scripted, and that was good to see what Nick mindset is, what his thought process is going into a game, and seeing him being able to script up things, make it work. Nice long drive, ended with points. Berrios looked good on that touchdown. It was fun to see, but I definitely think they want to run the ball, and I definitely think we're gonna see a lot of 2 tight end sets, which is interesting because I don't know if I want Brevin Jordan blocking. I don't know that. Just being honest, I don't know.
He wants to block. That's why I feel bad for him. People don't realize it because he's so put together and he's so muscular, but he's not a big guy. You know, he is not a big tight end, and I don't know if he has the length to ever be a really good blocker, but he wants to. He works at it.
He does. It's hard though. It's hard. Like they got block guys that are your size or bigger when you were playing. Like it's tough to be a tight end. It's really hard.
The BetUS has the Texans as a 2.5-point favorite at home versus the Panthers. And in the preseason, it's always very, very dicey. The thing that would make me feel best about that potentially happening, I guess, is 2 things. One is that the Panthers defense was not great last year, but 2, the blitz pickup. I mean, Cecil, it was when I was watching on TV, I didn't realize that the Vikings were blitzing as much as they actually were. And it's because the offensive line and the running backs especially, they were picking up the blitz. And a lot of the breakdowns were more individual players, losing their individual battles. But at this point, especially when there's backups in there, I'm just more encouraged that, man, they did not look nearly as confused and lost for answers. Against a team in the Vikings, they bring up 8 guys to the line of scrimmage, and you got to sort it all out fast. And like Woody Marks and Jawar Jordan had some nice pass pro reps.
Do you remember, was it week 1 they played them last year, or it was early in the season?
It was early in the season.
It was week 4. And they went crazy. Oh, my God, the Vikings did. It was unbelievable how they were getting back there, the boom, 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 boom. So I think to be able to handle that in preseason early on, again, it wasn't the tricks of the trade, but they did bring some heat. That's communication. That's coaching. That's making it simple enough so those guys that could understand, communicate with each other. Their running backs did a heck of a job. Tight ends did a good job when they were in. So again, that's shout out to Popovich. Honestly, I agree with you. That's exciting to see because of what we saw last year. Like what we saw last year, it's exciting to see.
Look, and Graham Mertz had 3 interceptions, 2 of them pretty ugly, 1 tipped ball. But there was one nice play that I was excited to see versus that Vikings defense, and it was one of those plays where the Vikings had 8 guys up at the line of scrimmage. They blitzed 6, but they've only got 1 backer, defensive back, dropping into coverage. So, okay, they got the quick game going, and they got it off to Xavier. Graham Mertz got it off to Xavier Hutchinson right over the middle. That it felt like, and it feels like in camp and then watching in the game, some of those things that they could have done last year to attack teams like the Vikings, where, okay, everybody's up at the line of scrimmage, it's hard for those guys at the line to get back into pass coverage. Yeah. But the Texans just never felt like they exploited it. And the quick game's one way you can do it, and I feel like Kaylee's more tuned into that side of it.
Did you see? This is kind of random, but it's not really random. On Netflix, it was a SEC football special, and Graham is on there.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I didn't see it, no. What was it?
So
Is it good or
it's
bad?
it's pretty good. They follow Florida and a
Yeah.
lot of other SEC schools, but Graham is on there talking, and
Uh-huh.
it kind of shows the story of him getting hurt and benched, and then DJ Lagway comes in. So I blame this on Netflix. It's not his fault. The interceptions
You
weren't his fault. It's
You got too much
Netflix's
love from
fault.
Netflix or something? Like
It,
you
it
just
just wasn't. You know what I mean? He wasn't focused all the way.
too much
So,
too soon. Yeah.
too much
You got
too
all that,
soon for a low round pick.
that Netflix glory. I know, I know, and I think you talked about it a little bit already, but Jalen Noel, I mean, like for a smaller guy, that the one play early on, especially where he broke that tackle and got the first down. What do you think? I know Jaden Higgins, we didn't see as much of him, but what do you think of the two young guys so far?
Noel is strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a Steve Smith type of guy I would compare him to. When he gets that ball in his hands, anything can happen. And you saw that. He broke a tackle on a screen, got 10 yards. Need to hold on to the football. I do need to hold on to that ball a little bit. But he is fast. He is strong. He's going to be hard to take down. He's not going to be a one tackle type of guy. He's going to break the first one, and then somebody's got to come get him. But he's a guy that to me, he's going to be able to help early. I don't know how early, because you got Christian Kirk, and I'm not sure how Nick wants to use the guys. But Noel is a guy that you're going to see progress through the season. Like, he is somebody that can be really special. And then Jaden Higgins, we didn't see much of him. I'm extremely high. I think he's a solid number 2. Him and Nico together, I think, can be really, really special.
It's I love the preseason because the Texans can lose 20-10, and yet I was on an emotional high for 48 hours afterwards. So we'll be back on Wednesday, preview the Panthers a little bit, and break down this game a little bit more. It's the Believe in Texans podcast brought to you by FanDuel. Cecil, thank you very much, and I'll see you Wednesday. All right.